Welcome to the Life's Better podcast. As we talk about how life is so much better with God, community, and purpose, we're going to really focus in on that community aspect of things, and we're going to talk about teams a bit. Josh, I know you've been on plenty of teams,
Yeah.
whether that's sports teams. I think you were probably even on a few improv teams.
Yeah, I didn't even think
Ministry
about
teams.
that being teams, but yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that it doesn't seem to matter where you go. If you're in community, eventually you're going to probably be on a team of some sort. As we just pointed out, sometimes they're just the traditional sports team, and it can be as fun as an improv team. Have you ever been on a team where, like, one individual kind of brought down the rest of the team?
Yes.
Was it typically attitude? Was it typically behavior? Was it they just didn't have what it took? What was it that you just kind of brought the rest of the team down?
That's interesting. I think I've experienced all of
Okay.
the above,
Yeah.
and in different ways, right? Yeah.
Okay, moment of truth.
Okay.
Have you ever been the individual bringing down the team?
Probably, and I just didn't know.
Like, if Doolin wasn't here, we'd be
Yeah.
accomplishing this. No,
I hope not.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Really, this is an episode for those of you who have the ability to create teams, that maybe you're on a leadership role and you're able to kind of handpick individuals on your team. I think it's also for those of you who are currently on teams and you want healthy dynamics, and so you can even look at what you need to do in order to have that healthy dynamic on a team. Or if you're just thinking through, I would love to be on that type of team. I would love to be hired for that role. Well, what are good leaders looking for as they're creating teams? So hopefully this is something that everyone can use and implement into whatever community teams that you're engaged in. But I think it was, it's probably pushing like 20 years at this point. I read Bill Hybels' book, The Volunteer Revolution. And it was an okay read, like it was fine. But I did walk away with a couple of gems. And one of those gems was, he referred to the 3 C's. He was talking specifically about how to make sure you get the right volunteers. And so he talks about these 3 C's that I think can be implemented into any team dynamic. And they are: look for character, competency, and chemistry. And so Josh and I are going to be unpacking each of those, and we're going to talk about how we've maybe done that well sometimes.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about maybe how we've not done that well at times.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll learn from our successes as well as our failures. But let's talk about that first one, the character component. So when we're talking about character, it's the traits, the qualities, and values that a person demonstrates with their lifestyle. When it comes to the Christian context, Josh, you and I were in the Christian context, it's kind of neat because Scripture gives us some of the character that leaders need to have in the church. If you want to be an elder, if you want to be a deacon in the church, it actually gives you a list of these character qualities to look for. I'll give you some examples of those. One of them is you need to be above reproach. Now, does that mean you're sinless?
No.
No, you're going to still make mistakes, but people can't just accuse you and people are like, oh yeah, it's probably true, right?
Yeah.
You're not above reproach. Talks about being faithful to your spouse, not getting drunk, being self-controlled, hospitable, respected by others, not violent, and the list continues. Josh, I'm curious though, as you look at your teams, maybe it's the team that you're developing for a worship team, or
Yeah.
it's the volunteer, student-led, whatever, or it's the individuals who are facilitating life group discussions. What are some of the character qualities that you really notice, look for, and desire in a teammate?
Yeah. So personally, I love when a person's just excited about what they're doing. So
Yeah.
joy is a big, component that I want. Something that was shared with me pretty early on in ministry was your kids and everyone else will react the way that you and your leaders react. So if something bad happens, if we're upset, angry, feel we should just give up on whatever we were pursuing, let it be a camp or an activity, then every other kid will also think it's a failure too.
Yeah.
But if you laugh about it and don't let it ruin the moment, then it turns into a memory that all of the kids also think is funny and like, oh yeah, like we tried to have this crazy outside event and it was a storm and
Yeah.
but we still had a good time, you know, like and
becomes memorable.
It becomes a memory
Yeah.
that instead of can you remember when
Yeah.
like such and such thing got ruined, and so joy is a big one. One for me is like I look for people who are like flexible and forgiving.
Sure.
Personally, as a leader, I like that. But like it is true. Like I'm human, and so like how does this person react to not getting their way, or how does this person react to you know, me changing up like what has to happen and we not going the route that they suggested and like all of that stuff, and if they don't react well, it's like, oh, like I don't know if I necessarily want to give this person a bunch of responsibilities and work with them a bunch.
Yeah.
But if they do respond well and like they're encouraging, like it's like, yeah, no, I want you around me. And then also like trustworthiness, like is like no brainer. Like when you look for in a leader, if I can trust you with the things that I'm giving you, then awesome. Like I'm going to give you more responsibility. So.
Yeah, no, those are solid. I know, generally speaking, you know, what I'm really looking for, again, you can go way deep into these. It would be okay, do they love God and do they love
Yeah.
people well,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Are they developing this relationship with God through prayer, through worship, through corporate, you know, Christian community? Are they morally, you know, do they recognize what sin is?
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but I wrote like they have integrity.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yes.
they're people who they do what they say and they say what they do.
Yeah, and and even going back to the character, you know, on the character of those who are in eldership above reproach. Like I know people are going to mess up, but do they confess it,
Yeah.
or do they deflect and make excuses? Right? Do they repent and turn from it, or is it just this, you know, pattern? And then generally, like, are you kind? Like I want to work with
That's a
people
good one.
who
Yeah,
are
yeah.
kind, and if you're not,
100%.
yes. You know, it's easy, I think, to identify these character qualities when you're close enough with people, spending enough time with them.
Yeah.
But certainly, you know, there are some of you who are listening to this and you're thinking through some hires that you need to make. And people are giving you their resume and it may look like they've got great character, but what do you do? How do you actually begin to understand what is their character when you don't really know them that well?
I would also say for those of you that aren't like I don't hire teams at all, but like maybe you're single, like you're looking for good character in a team
Yes.
in your relationships, and sometimes it's hard to judge at
It's
first,
true.
right?
Everybody's putting on the best face, you know. Everyone can make themselves look good for a couple of dates.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it, like some of these like things that we're about to say might be good for you too, like as you evaluate a person before you really get into like a deep relationship with them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know I have not always done this really well. You know, I've taken people at face value, and because they were enthusiastic, it was like, okay, yeah, maybe we can develop you into this, you know, leadership role. I can remember this one moment. It was several years ago when I was leading a young adults group, and someone had said they want to, you know, step into some leadership roles, particularly with teaching. And looking back, the red flags were there. I just didn't see them, and I didn't really try to develop like, okay, what's really going on in this person's character. And so I turned over some responsibility. I was gone this one week, turned over some responsibility to this individual who had some teaching roles. And when I got back, my phone was just like blowing up. And everyone I talked to, they were saying, you have got to remove him from like the team.
Oh my
And I was shocked.
gosh.
Like I was like, what happened? What's going on?
Oh no.
And they just proceeded to explain how it was just one lie after the next, while they're teaching, while they're communicating, even just in small talk. The biggest one was, I think it was an illustration that he was sharing, which was just an outright lie. And you'll understand as soon as I tell it. I don't even know why he thought he could get away with it. But he's telling the story of a time when he was in Las Vegas with his friends. And they're at the Luxor. Do you know the Luxor? It's the hotel that is shaped like a pyramid.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so they're in that hotel, and I forget exactly what the story was, but it involved them getting chased by security, and he had to escape out the window of the Luxor and slide down the. I mean, it's just fanciful ridiculousness, and you know that was just like, okay, you know, I can't have you on the team, man. You know, it's like this is a character issue.
Wow.
You cannot be a Christian leader who's just outwardly lying. And it was just like, no, that happened. It's like, so I could have avoided. I could have avoided some of the messiness had I looked a little bit deeper into his character.
Yeah.
And like I said, some of the warning signs were there as I looked back. It was like, yeah, he does seem to stretch the truth a little bit. But I think a few of the things that I probably could have done ahead of time was, if I didn't know him really well, certainly I could have taken the time to get to know him better. But at the same time, maybe you don't have that luxury. You know, you got to make a decision on somebody. It's really an important step to talk to other people who know him.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't spent a lot of
100%.
time, maybe interview a couple of his friends. I could have easily done that with his girlfriend, who broke up with him just like a couple weeks later. But just like, hey, you know, so-and-so is interested in this position. So-and-so is interested in, what do you think about that? Do you got any red flags there? And just kind of get the general vibe from them. Another one that I've heard of, I've never personally used it. My wife, Dana, has used it actually, is you can find out what people's character is when you look at what they're posting online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I've never done that. I've known people enough that I haven't really had to do a lot of sleuthing online. But my wife has, when she is, you know, getting these volunteers, and she's been able to avoid some issues. You know, it's like, oh, this person seems to have a really great character. Go online, and they're saying some things that are in direct violation of the values of the organization that she's leading. And it's like, okay, no, you're not going to be on the team now. I don't know. Does any other little tips, tricks come to your mind?
And I definitely think like online is a good place, because people love to say things that they would never say in person online, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, I think that's probably falling out of our kids. Like, they just post pictures of themselves, really. But man, like, people love to just like spew whatever.
Throw
you know?
it out there, yeah.
And yeah, no, I think one that I just want to share really, really quickly, not from me, but I listen to Youth Group Chronicles, which is like another podcast, which is great. Not to push you guys away from ours. I don't think we're in direct competition with them anyway, but a lot of people will call in and share like horror stories of youth group that have happened to them. And one that was a hire was a volunteer that was just really, really enthusiastic about coming to camp. And we love enthusiasm. I love enthusiasm, but that is no excuse to not look into the person, you know? Like, maybe find out why they're enthusiastic, because this person ended up being like a straight up like practicing witch who, while at camp, was like in the middle of the night like doing chants and stuff.
My gosh.
And like kids found out like she was talking about blood sacrifices and stuff. And this guy had to, in the middle of the camp, be like, get out, like, you know, and it ruined the camp experience. And it's like, dude, you did what? like why didn't you look into this person at all?
Yes. So it sounds like someone could have been vetted.
Yeah, like
fairly easily.
So easily.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way this person's not posting at least a little bit about that online.
I would think so.
Or ask any of their friends,
Right.
like, what are they into?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they love to chant things. It's just, yeah. For me, I like going back to like, what can we do to vet these people?
Yeah.
These are just personal things I've learned. Like, if I ask like people around them, how have they left places? Like a really big, cool thing to me, like a green flag, is if the places that you used to be a part of, or used to serve at, or used to do this or that at, or friends that you like have moved away from, if they have nothing but nice things to say, it's like, okay, this person's great, because not only do they come in, but they don't burn bridges when they leave. Like, they're a kind person. And then also, how does if you don't have that luxury and you just have the luxury of talking to them, how do they talk about others? Because I've been burned on that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It's just like, if they're constantly negative and talking about other people, they're probably doing that about you. So,
I mean, we've even had interviews with people who, when we ask, hey, you know, how do you feel about your previous church?
Yeah.
Where they've gone negative like immediately, and it's like, it is. You're right. It's a red flag.
Yeah, and there probably could have been a lot of bad things that church did, but like, if that's your, like, if you just turn nasty, like, it's just like ooh, like they have this side to them that I don't know if I want to,
Right.
touch.
Sure. Okay, so the first C is character. You're looking for character. The second one is competency. Competency. When we're talking about competency, what we're talking about is, does this person have the skills and ability to accomplish the job, to accomplish the task? Josh, if I came to you and I was like, hey, Easter's coming.
Yep.
And I would really love to go ahead and play and sing in the worship band. In fact, I've got this really great, special music that I would like to perform. Based on the competency of my past, musical abilities, what would be the clear answer you need to give me?
I need to tell you, how about we work on it together? Maybe play for the youth one week or something, or for the kids downstairs, but we're not throwing you in the Super Bowl.
Josh, you do not have to spare my feelings on this one at all. The correct answer would be no. You're out of your mind. That is not your skill set. That's not where you're competent at. Maybe you should just stick with the preaching. But for me personally, I love the fact that you kind of had that even approach with me, because out of the 3 C's, at least when it comes to volunteers, this is the one that I'm most lenient on.
Yeah, 100%.
And the thought there is...
With some things, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
There are certain things that probably I'm not going to be as lenient, but it is let's see if we can get there. Because that's what good leadership is. It's the ability to see in others some talent, some abilities that you can develop. They may not have it now. I mean, look at it this way. If I were to say to your 16-year-old self, hey, Josh, what I want you to do is I want you to lead the church worship service, and I want you to lead youth ministry, like what would your 16-year-old self be saying?
Absolutely not.
You didn't have the competency at the time.
No. Yeah.
But it's been developed over the years to the point where you're very competent at it now. And so this is what we want to do with those who are interested in being on teams. Are they individuals who could, at the very least, get there when it comes to competency? And so let's just share. I'm going to share a few of the things that I look generally for when it comes to competency. I mean, maybe they've never worked in a church setting. That's okay. Do you have these other competencies that will get you to a point where you can succeed on the team? So here's just a few that came to my mind. I look for dependability. Are they individuals who show up when they say they're going to show up? Do they actually follow through with the big tasks as well as the small tasks? If they've got that dependability, well, that shows me they're definitely going to be able to get there, right?
Yeah.
If they're not even there yet, if they say they're gonna and they don't, that's again a red flag. Another one is just having initiative. I love initiative.
Yeah.
If there's a need, if there's a problem, and you're able to see it, identify it, and then you're able to actually problem solve it, I love that. On the flip side of that, again, red flag would be there's a problem, because there always are going to be problems. There's going to be issues that come up. And you take a problem and you turn it into a crisis, like, hey, the sky is now falling, and you've made this huge mountain from just a tiny little molehill. That's a huge red flag that maybe you don't have the competency to problem solve the way we need teammates to problem solve. Teachability is another huge one.
Yeah.
You're not there yet, but are you teachable?
Yeah.
Will you be able to hear the advice that I have shared and work through that with me? You can hold my hand for a little bit, but can I gradually kind of release that and allow you to take what I've taught you and run on your own? These are all wonderful qualities that I look for when it comes to someone who is going to develop into someone who has competency. A couple other ones, and then I'll see if you have any to add to it. Do they say yes or do they say no? This one's a weird one, but a lot of people have this knee-jerk reaction to want to say no to things that stretch them. But if there is this willingness to say yes, even though it might stretch them a little bit, I love that. Hey, let's grow in this together. And then finally, do they go above and beyond? it's easy to just kind of give the status quo. But those who are willing to show up a little early, stay a little bit later, start to hear little stories about, oh, they did this for me. Oh my gosh, they did what for you? Wow, that is above and beyond what we asked them to do. Wait, they spent their own money on that? Are you serious? That's amazing. Like those are the individuals that I want to step in and say, hey, you clearly are teachable. Let's move you forward with this team. Does anything come to your mind?
Yeah, it kind of partners with your like initiative one, but I look for especially with worship team, like people who are patient, because if they're teachable, that's great, but like sometimes people have in mind what they want to be doing way ahead of when I think they're ready for it.
Yeah.
And so I have to like temper expectations, and even, as we work on certain things, like I see that they're not ready for the next step, and it's like, you know what, we're not going to move on from this thing for maybe a few weeks, and we're going to stay in this stage. Are you comfortable with that? There are some people who I've worked on with music and instruments that have yet to see the stage, and it's been months and months and months, and it's like, are you comfortable with that? And that's pretty important, at least in terms of to learn the competency to be up and do certain things. I love how like most of what we've said isn't like, have they delivered a speech? Are they really good at that? Or have they, performed in front of X amount of people? And what did those people think about how they performed? Because most of the time, what we're looking for, it does go back to character. Like even dependability.
Sure.
Like a lot of those things.
It's true.
It does really matter. Like a good character who is driven is like, we can steer you, right? But I don't know.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast. This was a number of months ago, and they had some CEO of some major corporation, and she's just built these amazing teams. Like that's what she's known for, is building these amazing teams. And the interviewer asked her, "What do you look for when you're building a team?" And I was really taken aback by like the number one thing that's on her list. She's got others, but the number one thing that she looks on the list, or for her list, is did they play collegiate sports?
Huh.
And I was, and of course, even the interview was like, really? Explain that more in detail. And what she wanted to see was that they had a good track record of high-performing teams. If you have been on a high-performing team in the past, collegiate sports, you are probably someone who is able to be coached. You're able to have the...
Interesting.
So that's like the number one on the evaluation. Have you ever played collegiate sport? No? Okay, well, you're probably not going to make a good job. It's like, wow, okay. I don't know if she lets everybody know that, but... I don't know. That was her criteria.
I do think there's also something to be said about like when I've done this wrong, it's when I've said yes too quickly. Like just assumed, because they're so driven, like we'll throw them up, they'll fail, and like it's not a big deal. Like, but failure, like, can actually make them never want to do it again, or they think, oh, well, this is a new regular for me, and it's hard to talk about. Like, I'll give a very quick example. Like, I think year 2, I was here, or 3. There was a lady who is so sweet, and she's since like passed away. Wanted to sing, and people like had sit around her, said, oh, she has a beautiful voice, and so like that, to me, I was like, oh, that's all I needed to hear. Like, you have a good heart. Like we'll throw you up for a song. And soon that just turned into, well, now I'm the star of the day. No one else is going to play any instruments while I sing this song. We're going to play a track. The track started too early. Can you restart the track like while the service is going on? And it was just not. It didn't add anything, and then at the end, I was just like, "This was a miss. Like this was such a miss," and I approved it, and I didn't think anything of it, and it was just like now we just have to do it and get it over with,
And I will say that there are some individuals, when you're looking for that competency, that in certain areas, they'll probably never have it. You can work with someone for years and years and years, but sometimes God did not give you that ability to develop into. And so when it comes to a hire, that's going to be an automatic. You're not going to get the job.
Yeah.
When it comes to a volunteer, I typically do one of two things. One, either try to redirect them into something that I think they really are shaped for, or if it's not going to be a detriment to a lot of people, sometimes I will actually put them into certain roles so that they can actually experience the failure and hopefully come to a realization that they either need to improve quick or they need to step away.
Yeah.
I've seen this again in my own ministries done fairly well, and then on both ends it's happened. So one of the first student-led worship teams that I helped develop, coming from someone who doesn't know like what he's doing with musically, was a kid who was just like, hey, we don't have a worship team. I'd love to play some songs, and I knew he was learning the guitar and he was okay vocally, but he had no accompaniment. Like there was nothing else, and it's like, well, how about you just really work on one song, like just work on really one song and then bring your A game with that one song. He did it. It was fine. It was okay. But over the years, he just kind of continued to develop. It wasn't a complete fail that first time, and so he got a taste of it, and he began to develop, and then he grabbed some other students who could play the cajon. Eventually, the cajon player started learning the drums.
Yeah.
This guy learned the bass, and they had a full worship team. This guy is now a worship leader at a really large, successful church in North
cool.
Carolina.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And that was one of those, like, you're not there. You're not there, but I think you might. I'm not really sure. Let's give it at least a shot where there's not a whole lot of damage control that would have to happen if it was a total failure. That being said, there's been other students that have had the same heart, and I've said the same thing. How about you just work with the team for a little bit, and they really quickly learn, I don't have what it takes. I don't have the time and energy and the desire. And it's like, yeah, I thought so, but I'm going to put you there to at least test the waters to see if you're going to develop that competency. And if the answer is no, well, you've pretty much figured it out yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, final thoughts on competency?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. The third C is chemistry, character, competency, and chemistry. When we're talking about chemistry, we're talking about working harmoniously with people because there is effective communication, trust, and shared values. Another way to say this is, like, when they show up, are you glad that they showed up? Like, another way to say this is, like, do you genuinely enjoy them as a human being? Do you have a lot of good times with them? And if the answer is no, you probably don't have good chemistry, and maybe they shouldn't be on the team. If you're the one that everyone hates, maybe you should step away from the team, or maybe change your attitude a little bit because the chemistry is not there. Josh, have you ever had some people that you've included on a team and it just really wrecked the chemistry?
Yeah, I've experienced this mainly in sports.
Okay.
One that came to mind specifically with chemistry was on my, I think I was a freshman in high school, on my basketball team I was on. There was this dude that the coach was excited to pull in, we're like, we got him. And he was a homeschooler who is, he was good at basketball, incredible. We were watching him warm up and it was awesome. But we learned quickly when the start of the season happened that he had the worst attitude of any player I've ever seen. And the coach felt awkward because it was like one of those things where we would get into the locker room, he would dominate, he would talk over our coaches, he would yell at specific players that weren't doing things that he wanted. And at some, I think 4 or 5 games into the season, we were losing by 20 at half, and he took off his stuff and left and quit the team.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just one of those things where it was like he dragged and we actually performed better the rest of the season when he wasn't on the team, despite him being the best player.
Right.
It was just no chemistry.
Yeah.
No one wanted to work well with him, despite him playing well.
Yeah. I've had similar experiences too. I would say even just a few years ago here, there was someone that wanted to be on the leadership team, and great character, very competent, but that chemistry, I just couldn't get over it. And it really came down to, he just seemed to focus, he seemed to major on the minors. So, when it comes to Christian theology, there's those gray areas that don't really have anything to do with salvation, but they've been debated for centuries. We have a shared value as a church that yeah, we're going to talk about those things. We might even, debate those in a kind way, but we're not going to major in those. Instead, we're going to
Yeah.
give a lot of grace. Yeah, you might have a different opinion. And really, at the end of the day, it's not a salvation issue, not a big deal. This guy just wanted to major in the minors, and every single conversation was about this debate or that debate. And I knew pretty quickly, yeah, you're going to wreck the chemistry and the shared value of where we're moving as a church. You can't be on leadership team. And so that was one I was able to avoid a little bit, but nonetheless painful having to walk through that. But a couple of things that I look for when I'm looking for the chemistry, again, would be that shared values. Do we have shared values?
Yeah.
Second, do I enjoy being around you? If I don't enjoy being around you, that's going to be a problem. And then on top of that, does the other team enjoy being around you? Because although you and I may connect really well, if I notice that everyone else really has a hard time connecting with you, that's going to bring the team down. So I don't know. Does anything else come to your mind when it comes to chemistry?
Yeah, I wrote down a ton. I'll go through them really quickly,
Sure.
but like one is, are they a lone wolf? Are they the
Yeah.
type to go off on themselves and like do X, Y, and Z things so they're going to step on everybody's toes? Do they respond? It goes back to character. Do they respond to not getting their way well?
Yeah.
If they come up with all of these great ideas, that's awesome. But the moment that I say, nope, sorry, we're going a different direction, do they accept that? Are they flexible? Like, again, goes back to the same thing. Anything can happen in ministry, like anything. On any given Sunday, if we need to cut a song, or if all of a sudden the lyrics aren't on the board, or the electronics go bad, or on a youth Sunday, I don't know, if all of a sudden the slides are not working.
That never happens here.
Yeah, like whatever.
We don't
like-
have those technical issues.
Like,
here.
are we gonna get upset? Are we gonna what's gonna happen? Are they gonna respond well? Do they celebrate the wins of others? Are they comfortable with other people on the team getting celebrated for their wins and them not? If I can't I shouldn't say I can't stand it, but it does really bother me when we're trying to celebrate the wins of somebody and they're like, well, I did this thing and it didn't get appreciated. And it's it's not about you right now.
We'll get to that
Yeah,
one.
like,
Let's just at least celebrate.
We might
this
not
person.
now.
Yeah.
I don't really want to now.
Now that you're fishing for it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And then do they buy into the mission, right? Like the one that you are most passionate about as a leader, do they get it? Are they on board from the get-go? Because if they're not, if they have a different mission in mind, then at some point, if all of your decisions are your mission focused, then they're going to be like, well, I don't really feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's like, well, we are. You just never got involved in what
It's not your objective. Yeah.
I will say though, one that our book we're going through on leadership does point out, and something I'm trying to watch, and I tend to try to be really careful about these things, is as you're looking at team chemistry, be careful not to just get rid of anybody not like you.
Yeah.
Because diversity in the group, in terms of even values and all of those things, can be a good thing, because they might see something that is in your weak area that needs to be improved. But at the same time, there are certain things, certain times with chemistry that you have to just be like no one likes you. And you don't get along well with anybody, and that is not a value that we need on this team.
The good example I would see, particularly with youth ministry, is you get kids with all kinds of different personalities.
100%.
They're not always going to connect with you. And so if you're always finding a clone of you,
Yeah.
well, there's a whole segment of students that are never going to really connect with leadership. But, if so-and-so has a certain personality, still has the shared values, still on board with the goals of the youth ministry, but just has a, unique, quirky personality. That's okay, because there's going to be kids that need to be ministered to.
I've actually had, I won't name names or anything like that, but I've had leaders that didn't necessarily get along the best and would personally come to me and be like, I don't know if this person likes me, and it was completely a personality thing,
Sure.
just clashing a bit. And if I was to uncaring about the situation, or I wasn't gonna lead well, I might have just been like, okay, one of you has to go, like kind of a thing. But instead, like it was like, no, we need to like. I can see that the chemistry can happen.
Yeah.
We just need to come to an understanding.
Yeah.
But like any good coach or team has to have some of that,
Yeah.
team building and like
Absolutely.
and chemistry building. So
That's good. Well, for those of you who are in charge of building teams, hand selecting teammates, hopefully this has been helpful. If you just want to be a really good quality team member, don't forget it's the 3 C's: character, competency, and chemistry. Until next time, don't forget that life is so much better with God, community, and purpose.
bye.